Hey everybody, welcome to today's show, which is going to be about digital portfolios for students. On today's show, I'll be showing you some different programs you can use to make digital portfolios. So we'll look at Google Sites, and we will also take a look at one of my favorite programs, Seesaw. And also be talking today about why you would want to make digital portfolios and how you can use them to do things like have students do student-led conferences, which are really powerful. And before we get started today, I do just want to give a big thank you to today's show sponsor, Restream. Restream is the live streaming software that I use. I'm currently using it right now. It allows me to stream to multiple platforms. So I'm streaming to Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter at the same exact time. It allows me to see all of your comments coming in one single location that I can pull into the show. So love Restream. They also have really easy, intuitive to use scene builders. So if you're interested in live streaming, definitely check out Restream. There's a link that you can click on that will also help the channel out if you're interested in the video description. And you may have seen on Twitter that I'm also very excited to announce a giveaway here at the new EdTech Classroom today. So this Sunday at 10 a.m. Pacific Standard Time, my 21st Century Classroom online course is going to go back on sale. And I wanted to offer the opportunity to my followers and a friend of my followers to win a free seat in the course. So I'm giving away 2 free course registrations worth $500. And just to give you a little bit of information about the course, so course registration is limited to 300 people. In the past, my course has sold out in under 4 hours. And what you get with the course is a comprehensive look at how to not just use technology in your teaching, but use it in strategic ways that I pretty much guarantee will transform your classroom and transform your teaching practice. As part of the course, you get 15 plus hours of video content. You also get loads of downloadable resources that you can take and edit and use in your own classroom, and access to a private YouTube channel with additional tutorials, as well as 8 weeks of live Q&A calls with me. And this is also going to be the last time for the foreseeable future that I'm going to be offering those live Q&A calls. So if that's something you're interested in, then I definitely recommend that you get your name on the wait list and you check out the course. Now, I am going to be giving away 2 free seats. There are some guidelines on my Twitter account and my Facebook account. They're going to be up in just a moment. It's very easy to win. All you need to do is tag a friend on one of those posts, and you just need to make sure that you and your friend are following me on either Twitter or Facebook, wherever you tag that post. And then what I will be doing is putting those in a name randomizer, and I will be announcing on Sunday morning at 9 a.m., 1 hour before the course goes live for registration, who has won those 2 free seats. Now this giveaway is only going to last 24 hours. So you would need to tag that post sometime between right now and 4 p.m. Pacific Standard Time tomorrow, which is February 19th. So love to see you in the course. And of course, let me know if you have any questions. I'm happy to answer those if you shoot me an email or ask me on social channels as well. And before we get started today as well, just a reminder that you should make sure to please put your questions in the comments if you have them. I try my best to answer questions live on the show. And if you are watching this recorded version, please also put those questions in the comments, because I try my best to get to all those questions as well. So today we're going to be talking about digital portfolios for your students. And what I want to do here is actually start by showing you a couple of examples of digital portfolios so that you get a sense of what they look like before we talk about why you might want to use them. And what I'd love to hear from people in the chat right now is whether or not you have ever used digital portfolios. So have you ever had students build digital portfolios in Seesaw or in Google Sites. Love to hear about that, to see people's experience making those. And as those are coming through, just going to show you some examples here of some digital portfolios. So this is Seesaw. If you are not familiar with Seesaw, it essentially allows you and students to post work that can be annotated on top of. And that is, in many ways, the primary function of Seesaw. It really started as a digital portfolio building program and has grown into a place where you can also deliver lessons, but it's really built for digital portfolios. So as you can see here, students can do things like bring in screenshots, and then they can annotate on top of them. So these annotations were done in Seesaw, and they can also write descriptions below where they're able to reflect on their work. And then it's all together in this one single stream. So you can see here the different types of work that the student brought in. At the top, this is a Google Slides project presentation. Down below is a reading log to reflect reading growth. And then students can also do things like bring in screenshots of projects and annotate directly on top of those. So one of the benefits of using Seesaw over other types of programs is this ability to bring any type of media in. As you can see in this example as well, it's also very easy to do things like take a picture and put that project picture into Seesaw. And then you can also write directly on top of it. So I'm going to show you Google Sites, which is a good option for other reasons, but it doesn't have this ability to have students annotate directly on top of their work. And these types of annotations are really useful, effective way to get students to reflect and develop some metacognitive skills when they are thinking about the work that they've done. Okay, so just gonna go to the comments here real quick. It looks like there's a lot of people who have not used them. It looks like Peggy just rolled them out today after watching one of my videos. And I wonder, Peggy, if that's the Google Sites or the Seesaw video. I actually have both up on my channel. But it's great that there are lots of people that have not used digital portfolios. So I think this is gonna be a really transformative practice for you. Okay, so this is Seesaw, and over here is a Google Sites portfolio. Now, what I did here is create a Google site that is independent from a class website. So you could build a digital portfolio inside of your class website, but if you don't have a class website with Google Sites, not a big deal at all. You can just set up a separate page. And then what you can do is set up these spaces for your students that hyperlink out to their portfolio. So let's take a look here at Sam's portfolio. And what you can see is that they're very nice looking. So I kind of prefer the aesthetic to these portfolios than Seesaw's, which is just kind of a running stream of work. These can be fully customized for each individual student and also offer a cool opportunity to teach students how to do things like website design in a really easy drag and drop environment. And then Google Sites allows students to do things like directly embed videos into their portfolio. So if we click here, you'll see that this video project is going to play inside of this website. And then they can also do things just like we saw in Seesaw, where they would directly embed a presentation, but that presentation is actually visible inside of this Google Sites portfolio. So that's pretty cool as well. Now, what's lacking about the Google Sites option versus Seesaw is that if you're going to have the students reflect on their work, they're mostly going to be limited to having to write their reflections on the side. It doesn't have any built-in functionality to be able to annotate directly on top of those portfolios. However, another plus is that you can easily house those portfolios on a single page like this, and then this page is easily shareable with your school community, with families, with just students in the class. You can opt for how private or public you want it to be. So I kind of like this as well. I've used both. I think both have pros and cons. I would just encourage you to try one. Okay, so I'm just going to check in and see if there are any questions. Yeah, so definitely. Carl is saying here that you can have students annotate before bringing it into Google Sites. That is absolutely true. So you use other programs definitely to have students annotate their work before bringing it into Google Sites. That is certainly an option. Okay, so let's look now at, let's talk for a moment just about why we would want to make digital portfolios. So one is just a matter of organization. If you have students doing work on all sorts of different programs, you're having students create, make things with technology, it can be a challenge to figure out how to organize that material. You can do things like have students drop things into a Google Drive folder, but that's not a great option for showcasing work. And similarly, if students turn work into Google Classroom, that's more of a one-way conversation with you as the teacher. That doesn't have any built-in functionality to be able to share their work back out with other students or with their families. So really, if you want students to be able to curate their work, to take all their best pieces of work and put them in a single place while also being able to show them, which is a really important aspect of having students create things. You know, they shouldn't just be turning them in just to their teacher, right? They should be publishing that work for their peers or for other people to see. So if you want to do that, you really need to build digital portfolios. And another reason is related, and that's the school-home connection. So this is important for so many reasons, right? It's important for families to have a better understanding of the work that students are doing. Oftentimes, we're limited to just sending a report card, having a couple of conferences per year, maybe open house. And other than that, parents might not have that great of a sense of what their students are doing in classes. So if they have digital portfolios, they can very easily be shared with families. In Seesaw, they can actually be pinged every single time a student posts something to their digital portfolio. And obviously, if you have a web page with Google Sites, parents can see that as well. It's also an investment issue. So if students know that they're doing their work not just to hand in to one person, you the teacher, but they're doing it to showcase to the class, to the school, to their parents, that can be a motivating factor for students as well, just as it would be, I think, for any of us if we knew that our work was going to be, more public, particularly if we got to choose and make it special and customize it like I showed with the webpage. Another is to develop metacognition skills. So another thing I'd like people to put in the chat, how do students react if you ask them to go back and revise old work or review old work? Do they like doing that? I'm guessing I know what the answer is going to be because I know what my experience was like. It is hard to get students to go back and look at their work. I mean, it was hard to get me to do that when I was a kid. I remember loathing having to go back and revise or look back at something that I did. I was like, I'm done with that. Digital portfolios give students a meaningful reason to go back to look at their work and reflect on it. So we'll look at it in greater detail in a moment, but like I showed, you can have students annotate their work, talk about how very specific elements of their work show skill development, show content understanding. They can reflect on what they're proud of, how they would improve upon their work. So it's helping just build those metacognition skills for your students. Yes, and I'm seeing pretty much everybody in the chat saying that they hate it, they do not like it, they don't want to go back to their work, and I understand that. So if we want them to do it, we have to give them a meaningful reason to go do it. And then lastly, if you set up digital portfolios, it's like the perfect lead-in to doing student-led conferences. What I would recommend is that when you set up portfolios, and by the way, it's not too late to do it right now. This is actually could be a perfect time of year to go in and pull work from the rest of the year. But if you're starting at the beginning of the year, you can just make it part of your routine that once a month you're going to go back, you're going to have students curate their work, choose some work to go in their digital portfolios. And once you teach it to them once or twice, it pretty much runs itself. And then they're just compiling a whole archive of work with reflections that is the perfect stepping stone into a student-led conference where students can present that portfolio for their families. And if you've strategically set them up and really prepared students to reflect on those in intelligent ways, then you're going to have these really inspirational conferences where students are able to talk very articulately about their work. Student-led conferences, always my favorite week of the school year. And if you start doing digital portfolios, I highly recommend that you incorporate them in some way in your conferences, even if they're not fully student-led, that you have students talking about their work with their families and other stakeholders. Okay, so those are some reasons why. And I just going to pull in a couple of comments here before we get started. And I totally agree with this, Kim. I couldn't agree more that one really important reason to have students make portfolios and show just this whole concept of showcasing work is about motivation. It's not just about the adults seeing it, it's also their peers. They want to do work that, their peers are going to see. And we also live in a culture of that type of sharing where students are accustomed to that, right? So it's leaning into that. All right. Okay, so let's take a look now at how to actually build these. So I'm going to start by showing you Seesaw, and then we'll take a look at Google Sites. And by the way, I know that I mentioned this before, but I have tutorials on my channel for how to make digital portfolios in Seesaw and Google Sites. So you can also check those out on my channel as well. Now, both Google Sites and Seesaw are free. You can sign up for a free Seesaw account. The free version is fully functional. And once you get in, you can either bring your own classes in manually. They even have ways with younger students you can do it without using email addresses. You can also sync your Seesaw account with Google Classroom. So if you go up to create new class, that will allow you to either manually enter a class or you can import it from Google Classroom. All you need to do is select a class here that you want to bring in, select the grade, click import class, and that is going to bring in students from that particular class. So very simple to do. Now, another thing that you'll want to do is go up to the wrench, and the wrench has some of the settings that are available to you in Seesaw. So you can do some things like change, class theme, color, and all that. But one thing you'll want to think about is whether or not you want students to be able to see each other's work. This is kind of something you could think about, whether or not you want students to have their portfolios built sort of privately for them, or whether or not they want to be showcased. You could also turn this on and off, so you could have like showcase periods of time, but then have them be private for periods of time as well. I do like to keep this setting on that new items require approval. Basically, this will mean that you have to vet those portfolios, what they submit to the portfolio, and you could ask students to revise them before they're ready to come in. And then you'll also want to turn on family access if you want to be able to invite families to the portfolios, which I think is an important element of them. You can also do things if you turn on family access, like make sure that students are able to comment. I tend to leave liking off, and I don't really like the liking feature, but comments will allow students to share their work with families, and then families to be able to leave comments on their work, which I think is really powerful as well. Really easy to bring families in. Usually what I do is at the beginning of the year, either you can send out a QR code through Seesaw, or if you have conferences in person or via video conferencing, you can just tell them about your digital portfolio system. You enter either a cell phone number or an email, and then they will get pinged to sign up for an account, and they can set up notifications so that they literally get a notification on their phone. Hey, Dan, the demo student, just put something into his portfolio. Do you want to check it out? And they can see an image of their student's work that same day. So it's a really powerful way to open up visibility in your classroom. So I highly suggest that you do that as well. Now, there's other things you can do, like set up different folders and things like that. If you're interested in learning kind of more nuts and bolts stuff about Seesaw, I definitely recommend you check out my Seesaw videos on my channel. But that's really all you have to do to set it up. And then what a student does is a student is going to be inside of their account here, and then they can start to add work. So basically the way that Seesaw works is that there are all these different options for different types of files that they can bring in. So here, for example, you might have noticed in the beginning that I showed that you can take a picture, right? Oof, that's too much. Hold on, sorry. That's gonna kill us. Okay, so sorry about that. I have to take that off. That's like the maze. Okay, so you can take a picture, but I can't do that because I got my video coming through. So just trust me on that. That you can take a picture, you can have students put their picture up and be able to annotate directly on top of that. So the photo is a creative way that you can have students do things like, let's say even right now remotely, students are making a poster or doing something hands-on. They can take a picture or they can do video, and that can be of something that they made with their hands, but then they can add this tech augmentation, right, upgrade to it where they're able to annotate directly on top of it. So technology integration doesn't mean everything has to be technology. You can still do things on paper, but take pictures of them, annotate over the top of them, and they're really cool. You can also have students upload, so they can do things like upload files from their computer. And cool thing about this, if you did not know, is that students can access all of their work that they submit through Google Classroom in their Drive folders. So here they would go to folders shared with me, they would click on Classroom, and then if they opened up one of their class folders here, they would be able to select something that they had submitted through Google Classroom, and it's going to upload that file into Seesaw, assuming that I can actually get this to upload and not buffer forever. Okay, good. All right, and then once it's here, they can click on this little quotation mark here on the bottom left-hand side, and they can choose to either record their voice for a reflection or they can add a caption. Now here it is important, particularly when you're just introducing this to students, that you're giving students some sentence starters that they would use for their captions to reflect in ways that are going to be showing some metacognition. So you can have them answer things about what the work shows in terms of skill development. So they might talk about how they're able to apply a particular skill. You could have them talk about how their work shows something about content understanding. So for example, the Silk Road here. You could also talk about how it is showing tech skills. So, I was able to design and create this Google slide presentation. You can also have them do things like talk about what they are proud of, how they would improve. So you definitely want to give students these criteria. Whoops, I can't spell right now and talk. Okay, you want to give those students criteria for how they would be writing their reflections so that they're meaningful reflections, right? Now, once students are ready, they're going to just click on the green check. And then here you'll notice, like I mentioned with folders, that I had set up some folders for students. So this one they're going to put in their student-led conference folder. And then on my end, I'll be able to approve that work coming through before it actually ends up in their folder. So the student can see that here where it says waiting for teacher approval. Now, in addition to bringing things in from their Drive, taking pictures, stuff like that, they can also do things like, for example, add drawings. So here they could upload work, and you can have students draw over the top of that work, or they can actually just use like a full open canvas here as well. Again, I'm not going to do the image to show you that right there, but you could, bring in an image that you took again with the camera and have that come over the background is an option. You can also bring in like a notepad. You can link out to websites, and you can also bring in stuff from your computer. So one, common way to use Seesaw as well would be not necessarily something from Drive, but let's say you have students do a screenshot of a piece of their work, like a project. You could also bring that in. So if they had a screenshot, we'll just pretend that this student did this little thumbnail here, then they'll have a single one. They can also add additional photos. So I'm going to bring something different in here, actually. This one here, where are you? There we go. Okay, so this is a digital book, and then when they're ready, click that check mark. And then you'll see, since this file was uploaded from the computer, that the student has full access to all these tools. So here's where you can have students really mark this work up. So I like to have students do things like use either the pencil tools to circle things. So for example, they can very easily just circle a part of the text like that, and then they can draw a line over, then add a text box here, and they could put a little annotation about how this work shows what I learned about the pyramids, as an example. And they can also do things like add shapes. So if you go down here to the three dots, they can add shapes. This arrow one is useful. And so they might, for example, point to this particular place. You can like rearrange that, size it down a little bit. And then they might add a text box here that's more about a skill. So might say, for example, this shows how I'm able to summarize nonfiction text. So the idea here, right, is that I'm going to have them do some reflection about some content understanding, probably a little bit more rigorous than this right here, some reflection about their skills that they're showing in this particular project. And just like I showed with the other, you can also add a caption down below. So you can still have students write, I am proud of XYZ, and they can also talk about I would change, or I could improve XYZ, right? Then when they're done, same thing, they're going to select the folder, put it into their folder. And then on the teacher end, just go back to my class here, I'll see at the bottom that I have some unapproved posts. So I'm going to review them. And if I want to send it back, I can send it back. I can leave a note as well for the student. So I can click on it and I can access their work as well. So I'm able, just like a student is, to get in. So I could even leave them the notes with these different tools to be able to, say, hey, can you do this here, right? I can leave even a video if I wanted on top, or I'm sorry, an audio file on top of their work to suggest something that they should do differently. So it's good for feedback as well. And then once you're ready to approve it, you're just going to click approve, and then they'll get a notification that it was approved, and it will be uploaded into their folder. And then you would be able to see their work as well. So if you choose the option of notifying parents, as soon as their work gets approved into their folder, that would automatically ping parents that that work has been uploaded, and they would be able to see it. So it's a very easy, fluid process. It's also friendly for lower grades because there's all kinds of different ways that students can interact and engage with work that is not necessarily just through typing. I've had students do things like record videos in class where they huddle, in the back and make a really thoughtful video that they put on top of their work to talk about it and what it shows. They really, they get into it. So Seesaw is an awesome option. Now, the only thing that I think I don't love as much about Seesaw is just the fact that it's kind of this running stream. I do like that it's in one place, but what I like about Google Sites is the fact that you can really fully customize it. And so that would be something to consider, particularly for older students. So for a Google site, what you are going to do is hop over to Google Sites at sites.google.com. And you're going to start here by just clicking blank. Now you can obviously start from one of these templates if you want to, but I like to just basically start from blank here. And I see a lot of comments and questions coming through. So just before I move on to talking about Google Sites, just going to make sure that there aren't any questions here. Okay. It looks like some chat, but not as much some questions. If you do have a question and I missed it, please make sure that you drop them in. Okay, so this question, how do you organize portfolios in Google Sites? We're going to do that right now. Okay, so thank you for that question. I'm going to show that right now. And if I missed one up top, just please drop it in again so I can make sure that I answer it. Okay, so this Google site right now is the teacher Google site. Now, again, this one I'm making independent of a web page. If you are interested in learning how to embed it into your class website, you probably already know if you have a class website, but it's also on my video on my channel, how to set up e-portfolios with Google Sites. But just for simplicity's sake, I'm going to build one that's just a single page here. So what you can do is title it, so for example, you could title it your 10th grade portfolios. And then all of this is fully customizable. So you can change it to, your class name, Mr. Carey's 10th class portfolios, and all of the text and everything is fully customizable. So you can change it, change the font type, and then you can also do things like change the background image here. So you can bring in a different type of image just to customize it a little bit more. You can bring in your own image, or you can bring in a background image from one of these preset ones here. So let's see, I'll just pick in that one. And then you can also do things like change the theme. So if you go over here to theme, this is a way to change the color scheme. So this one is just the simple theme, but there's other types of website themes. So you can see really easily make it look cool without doing too much here. So play around with those, and I encourage students to play around with them as well if they're going to build their own page to break the program. That's what I like to tell them. Try out everything, see if all the stuff, how it works. So then what I did to build this here, where I had these different basically placeholders for my student portfolios, is just drag in these layouts. So you can do one of two things here. If you just essentially teach a single class, then you can have these spaces be for individual students, like this one. If you teach multiple classes, so let's say you have actually 4 periods of class, then you could also label these to be a period, and then all you do is create a sub page where you would then have your actual home portfolio page. Again, I show that as well in the video tutorial. So if you teach multiple classes, you want to build multiple portfolio pages, be sure to check that out. It's pretty straightforward how to do it. But let's just say here, for example, that I want to build a portfolio page. So this is going to be Spider-Man's portfolio. All you need to do is either have students pick an image that they want to add, or you could have them tell you an image that they want to use. Really up to you, kind of what you do. But I would encourage you to allow students to pick an image that they want to represent them. And then they can select, you can go to select an image, if you had student images, you could get those right from your Google Drive folder, or, you can, if you want to kind of be creative and let them choose something that's not actually them, you could pull an image in from Google. So lots of different choices here for how you could build those. And then what you would do is just continue to drag this layout in and basically build a little space for each of your students. Now, I have in the past sometimes given my students editing access. So I've shared it with them, and I've actually allowed all students to come in and add their own image and add their own stuff to the page. I just caution that just be cautious if you do that, because it's easy for students to overwrite each other's stuff or accidentally delete stuff. So I've since kind of decided that it's best to just build this myself and allow students to tell me or give me images that they want to put on there, and then let them build their whole portfolio page. So that's kind of their realm, and this one's going to be my realm. Okay, couple questions. So before we look into actually building the individual page, I'm going to take some questions here. Okay, so this question: what is my favorite part of Sites? So what I like a few things about Google Sites. I like that they are very easily customizable. So I'm going to show you in a second how a student could build a portfolio page that's just totally unique to them and looks different. And I think that's important. They get to practice design and they get to build some 21st century skills using Google Sites. So using Seesaw, yeah, there's definitely some 21st century skill development, but if you haven't built a portfolio in Google Sites, I mean, they're designing a web page, right? So that's pretty cool. And that's one reason I like it. I also like it because if you are at a G Suite school, it's just incredibly easy to integrate everything in Google Sites. So if you already have work in Google Classroom and Google Drive, it's just so easy to pull in and have it look really neat and professional. So that's why I like Google Sites. And yeah, I agree, Carl, with this as well. Yeah, it's highly customizable. It's fully customizable, really, and particularly if you already use all the G Suite apps. Okay, so I would basically continue setting this up so that I had my homepage with all my spaces for my students, and then your approach, can differ. What I would suggest is that you make a video tutorial and you essentially show students how to make their own sites. So you can make a tutorial that, walks them through just some of the basic practices of making a website. And all they would need to do is essentially repeat the steps you did. So they could go here to blank. They could start to build their portfolio. By adding their title up here at the top, and then also their page title here, and start to customize everything based on the way that they wanted it to look. Because I didn't do that on the other one. I didn't actually highlight it. And bring in an image. Again, they could upload their own image to really personalize it, or just choose one of the preset ones and pick a different theme so that it looks unique here. So just all kinds of different things, different options that they would have for how they could customize it. Let's see, I want to try this one instead. Okay. All right. And then just like we did with the portfolio homepage, you can teach students how to use these layouts. Now, for the portfolio layouts, I would probably use this first one, which is essentially a piece of media and a text box. And the reason for that is because it's going to allow you to show students how they can add a piece of media. So this can be a video, a slides presentation, an image, and then they can also add their text. Now, with Seesaw, I showed how you can essentially, have students annotate over the top, talk about what their work shows, talk about what they're proud of, talk about how they could improve. And if you do that you're going to have a really high quality student-led conference if you choose to do that. You're going to be really proactively building metacognition skills. Another strategy that you could use is to have students curate work based on categories. And actually, right now, this time of year where we're, coming into the spring, the last quarter of the school year, if you haven't started building portfolios, you might want to consider using this strategy. So what this would look like instead is that what you would do is have students pick work that fits under different banner categories. So for example, you might have students pick work that they're most proud of, right? And then they could continue to add layouts. So bring another one in. You can also teach them, they can very easily, so that the media is not on the same side, just swap the side so that it's offset like that. And then you could continue to have them add different categories. So in addition to work, I'm most proud of this. Sorry, that's not it. I'm most proud of this work. Okay, work that shows growth, right? So we might have something that they're proud of, but also something that they've grown a lot in, maybe in skill development, something that they weren't so great at before, and they're going to show that piece of work. You could also have them do things like most challenging work. What from the year was something that they found really difficult, right? You could have them show work that demonstrates different 21st century skills. So work that shows creativity. So particularly if you've been doing creativity apps and you want to have students really emphasize that and talk about how they've been creating and making things with technology, you could have a category about creativity. You could similarly, right, have a category about critical thinking, and you could have a category about collaboration, and also a category about communication. So point being here that it doesn't have to be that it's all just best work that we love and that we think is great and we're proud of. It could be different types of work that actually more maybe accurately represent a student's portfolio of work over the course of the year. And choosing to go this route is also, going to build metacognition skills in different ways and get students to really think about work that's been challenging for them, work where they've shown some growth, work that shows development in particular categories. So also something to think about. Now, underneath these, I would still have them write a reflection here. And as somebody in the chat suggested, you could still have students annotate over the top of their work in another program. They could bring it in as a background to Google Drawings and annotate over the top of it, or any number of programs. I guess you could actually have them do it in Seesaw and then download that and bring that into Google Drive, or create it, screenshot it and bring it in here. So there's still workarounds if you wanted to have them annotate on top of their work and bring it into Google Sites. And then if they click the add button, they can either upload work from their computers, or they can bring it in from Drive. So if they were to go to Drive here, just like we did with the previous one, they could find that work in their classroom folder for Google Classroom. They could also bring in different types of media like videos. So if you want students to bring in a video, they need to have that video on their Google Drive, but then they can insert that video. And then the video is going to be playable directly on that website, like I showed in the beginning. And then they can also do things like add those different, we'll go ahead and do this, add some different images. So here that might just be their same, digital book image. They could add work that comes out of that classroom folder, just like we did with Seesaw as well. So if they had, for example, here a slide presentation, then once that uploads, we'll be able to click through it and actually view the entire slide presentation on their portfolio. So you can see they look very professional and neat and fully customized. However, they don't take a ton of time to make. You can also show students how to do things like add divider lines. So if they were to bring in a divider line, then all you need to do is click on where you want that divider line to go. And that's just going to add another kind of layer of design so that they look a little bit neater as well. Sorry, I didn't click right on the right spot there. So just these little things that you can do that will make them look just a little bit more professional. And once a student is ready to publish this website, they just need to, well, first they can go up here to the share button. If you wanted them to share it back with you so you could get in and potentially help with actually editing the page, then you could do that. And when they're ready to publish it, they just need to click publish, and they're going to give it a name. So we'll see if this is available, SK Demo Portfolio. And then you can have it requested to not display through a public search engine. You can also customize who is able to see the site. So you can change the settings so that maybe only people with your school email domain are able to actually click on the link and access it. So you can change the privacy to be as private or public as you want. And then when they're ready, they're going to click publish. And then when they go up here to link site, they'll be able to copy that link and give it to you. Now, what I would recommend that you do is set up something like a Google Sheet where you keep all of these links so that you have them all in one place, or a Google Doc, just one document where all these links are going to be. And then what you can do is go back to your portfolio page. You're going to highlight the name. You're going to go insert link, and then you'll paste the link that the student gave you. Click apply, and then you can publish your site as well. And see if this is going to register that name. Looks like it is good to go. So we'll click publish, and then I can get the published site link as well. Copy link. I'll go ahead here and open up another page. Whoops, what happened there? Let's do it on the student one here. And if it worked correctly, there we go. So we have our published site page. We can click on that link, and it's going to take us over to that student's portfolio. Again, the video will be visible inside of the page, which is pretty cool. And those slide presentations will also be visible directly inside of the Google site as well. So 2 options for how you can make digital portfolios, one with Google Sites, one with Seesaw. And right now I'm just going to go through and check out the questions, see what questions people have. And again, if you asked a question way up, I know there's quite a few comments in chat that's going on. So if you have a question and you want to put it in, make sure to drop that in so that I can answer it. Okay, so this one is not related to portfolios, but I see the question, so I will answer it. So Anita is asking what software I use to make my tutorials. It depends. So right now I am live streaming, and this is a good time to remind everybody, thank you to this show sponsor, Restream. I stream through Restream, which allows me to stream out to multiple platforms, see everybody's comments, like I just saw from Anita, from all the different places where I'm streaming. And so I use Restream, and then I build my stream scenes in Ecamm. And I showed all about that actually in last week's live show. So check that out if you're interested. And then I use another program called ScreenFlow to make my video tutorials. I actually have a video on my channel called How I Make My YouTube Tutorials. So if you're interested in checking that out, you can see how I use a green screen, which I have behind me here as well, right? This is not my actual backdrop. I could be behind, you know, have a beach going on right now. So I use a green screen for all my stuff, and I show how I edit my videos and put them together in that tutorial. All right. Yeah, so Carl, appreciate you've had a lot of comments and clearly some experience with digital portfolios. I agree with this. So it looks like there's just a conversation about kind of design and whether or not you should kind of control aspects of design. I think it's important to teach students proactively about design. So when we're teaching students how to create with technology, we can do things like teach them about font families, for example, what fonts go well together, show them how to use alignment tools, talk about things like I showed with offsetting media, for example, as more aesthetically pleasing than just having all the media running in parallel down the page. But I also agree with what Carl was saying, how ultimately, even if you don't like it that much, it's important to let them design on their own rather than kind of giving them a template and forcing them to fit their stuff into a particular structure. More important, I think, to be able to let them tinker and make things while also proactively showing them how to design well. Okay, so this question, Raven, thank you, is about sharing a class website and sorry, we can't really see that very well. Can we change that? Making a class website, but only people had board emails could view it. So that's all about the settings in your site. So when I'm going to toggle back here to the one that we built. And so when you are here on publish, and you publish it, let's see, I'll make a change here. Then you can choose how you want that to be shared. So sorry about that. Let's see. Okay. So when you're sharing it or when you're publishing it, it's going to give you an option. I've already published it. So let's see. Publish settings. There we go. So here under manage. So what I did, sorry, it took me a second to find it too. Under the drop-down menu next to publish, go to publish settings. And then here where it says, make it easier for people to visit, your site, you could give it a custom URL here if you wanted. And you can also manage who is able to see it. And actually I realized that is not what I'm looking at right now. So I apologize. I'm going to need to tinker with this and actually figure this out myself once it's published, how I go in and change the publish settings. Let me see if it's right here. View, changes, view. Okay. I got to play around with this for a minute. I will have to get back and answer this question once it's published. I know when you are publishing it, it gives you the option to manage who can see it. Now that I have it published, I need to get in and see how I do that. I'm just having like a brain fart right now about how that actually happens. But you can control who's able to have access to the published site. And I suppose it's possible, if you're having that issue, that that might have something to do with your school's settings. So it's possible that the way that your administrators have set up your accounts, that only people with school domains would be able to access anything that you do in G Suite, and then parents would not be able to access it if they are coming in with non-school domain emails. So that's probably the first thing I would check, just verify whether or not you can even have people that don't have school domain emails get in. And then if you can, just make sure that those settings are changed. I'm going to have to look at that on myself, and then I'll drop a comment in. But definitely when you hit the publish button, like I showed before, there's an option to change it. Okay, so would I recommend Wakelet for student portfolios? Sure. So Wakelet is also a good option for student portfolios. If you're not familiar with Wakelet, it's sort of like the Pinterest of education, even kind of more cool in its design. And I'm actually going to have a Wakelet tutorial coming out pretty soon for the channel. You could absolutely use Wakelet for student portfolios because similarly, it allows you to pull in different information from, or different media from different places like Pinterest, and then sort of create that on a single page. So great option as well for student portfolios. Okay, so there's a lot going on in the chat. So just make sure, please, if you have a question still, that you put that in so that I don't miss it. Okay, thank you. Peggy is telling me right now, yeah, change the share settings in the share option. So let me see. Peggy, thank you for that. Ah, yes, thank you. Okay. All right, so thanks, Peggy. Okay, so here, thank you so much. Okay, so if you go, I'm back on our screen share here. So in the share settings, so now that it's been published, if you go here to share with others, then go to change, now it's going to allow you to change who would be able to access it. So you could restrict it so that, you know, people can only open it if they have this link. So again, this is where I would check. Actually, this is interesting. Peggy, if you know the answer, that once I published it as public, if I'm not able to go back and restrict it to certain emails, that's interesting. I actually haven't tried that before. So if somebody knows the answer to that, I already published this as a public site. So since I already did that, can I no longer go back and restrict it for certain emails? That would be interesting, actually. So at least here you can restrict it. So you could change it so that it would be restricted. I'm guessing what you might have to do is actually like unpublish it altogether. And then let's see if that works. I'm gonna tinker around with this a little bit. Then go back up to publish. Then go to manage. Okay, good. Now here I could control by adding people who would be able to see this particular website. Okay, so problem solved. Took a little bit of tinkering. Thanks, Peggy, for pointing that out. And if you want to change the publish settings and who can access it, you need to unpublish the site, republish it again, and then you can tinker around with that. Okay, great. Glad we got that solved. And thank you, Peggy, for that as well. Okay, looks like right now, no more questions. If you do have a question, just please make sure to drop them in. I can stay a couple of extra minutes. So again, digital portfolios, great way to open up a window into what's happening in your classroom for families, great way to invest students in the work that they're doing, show them that the work that they're doing matters, that they're going to showcase it for other people to see. Whether you use Google Sites or Seesaw, or like we had pointed out as well, Wakelet, any of those options are going to help facilitate building digital portfolios and having students reflect on their work in meaningful ways. And so I really highly suggest that you do it. It's not too late in the year. You can still pull together portfolios, have students go back, curate some of their work, and reflect on it, reflect on what it shows in terms of skill development, content understanding, as well as what they're proud of and how they could grow if they were to do work like that again in the future. And as I mentioned as well, really great jumping off place for student-led conferences. You can have students basically pull up those portfolios, talk through their work, and those are really inspirational days if you do that. So highly recommend that you do that. And if you want to get real creative, you can even have students do things like screencast their portfolio where they get to create a video about it. And that could be a way that you could do it if you were teaching mostly asynchronously right now as well. All right, so thank you so much for coming. Thank you to our show sponsor, Restream. And be sure if you want to check out Restream and get into live streaming yourself, that you check out the link in the video description. And lastly, also a reminder about my course giveaway. I'm giving away 2 registrations for my online course. Online course goes on sale for the 21st Century Classroom at 10 a.m. this upcoming Sunday, the 21st. To win 2 free seats, all you need to do is tag a friend who you think might be interested. There's a post on Twitter, there's a post on Facebook. If you and your friend are following me on one of those accounts, then I will be pulling names from a randomizer, and I will let you know at 9 a.m. on Sunday if you won 2 free seats to the course. And that is going to close at 4 p.m. tomorrow. So that's only open for 24 hours. If you have any questions for me in general, make sure you drop them in the chat. Shoot me an email if you have a question about the course at newedtechclassroom@gmail.com. And next week, make sure you stay tuned because I'm super excited to be showing you all about how to promote student creativity with Canva for education. So that show is happening next week at 4 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, and I hope to see you then.